The audio file was only 4 minutes long, but for Richard Sterling, it felt like a lifetime of failure condensed into a digital waveform. He was sitting in the back of his chauffeured Maybach, gliding through the rain-slicked streets of downtown Manhattan. Outside, the city was a blur of neon lights and hurried pedestrians, a world moving at a frantic pace. But inside the car, the air was still, heavy, and suffocating. Richard, a man whose net worth exceeded the GDP of small countries, was staring at a tiny object in his palm. It was a silver hair clip. To the untrained eye, it was a piece of exquisite jewelry, a delicate butterfly with wings encrusted in microscopic Swarovski crystals. He had given it to his 5-year-old daughter, Lily, just 3 days ago. He had told her it was magic. He had told her it would keep her safe. But magic wasn't real. Technology was. His thumb hovered over the play button on his encrypted phone app. His heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic rhythm that defied his calm exterior. He pressed the button. A burst of static hissed through the car's high-end speakers. Then, a door creaking open. "Please." The voice was tiny. It was Lily. It sounded like she was trying to make herself small, to disappear into the floorboards. "Please, I'm hungry." Richard's hand tightened around the phone. His knuckles turned white, matching the pristine cuffs of his cream-colored suit. Then, another voice cut through the recording. It wasn't the voice of the woman he had married 2 years ago. It wasn't the charming, sophisticated voice of Marcella, the woman who hosted charity galas and charmed his board of directors. This voice was low, guttural, dripping with a cold, calculated malice. "Hunger is good for you, little rat. It teaches you discipline. Do you think your father cares? He's in Tokyo. He's forgotten you exist. Just like your mother did." A sound followed, a sharp, sickening thud, like a hand striking soft flesh. Then silence. A terrified, breathless silence that screamed louder than any cry. Richard didn't scream. He didn't throw the phone. He simply froze. The blood in his veins turned to ice. For years, he had prided himself on seeing everything: market trends, business betrayals, economic shifts. But he had been blind to the war being waged in his own home. He had invited a monster into his daughter's bedroom and handed her the keys. "Turn the car around," Richard whispered. His voice was unrecognizable, a jagged shard of glass. The driver looked in the rearview mirror, confused. "Sir, the shareholder meeting. The Japanese investors are waiting." Richard looked up. His eyes, usually warm and blue, were now dark voids of pure, unadulterated fury. "I said turn the damn car around. We are going home. Now." If you have a gut feeling that something is wrong in your family, never ignore it. Richard is about to unleash a storm that will tear his perfect life apart to save his daughter. If you are ready to witness a father's ultimate justice, hit that subscribe button. You do not want to miss what happens when the lion returns to the den. To understand the horror of that recording, we have to go back. Back to before the clip. Back to the silence. The Sterling estate was a masterpiece of modern architecture nestled in the wealthiest enclave of Connecticut. It was a sprawling structure of white marble, glass, and steel, designed to impress, to intimidate, to exclude. From the outside, it looked like a palace. Inside, it felt like a mausoleum. It was 7 a.m., a Tuesday in November. The morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the dining room, casting long, pale shadows across the table. The room was silent, save for the rhythmic clink of silver against china. Richard sat at the head of the table. He was dressed in his armor, a bespoke cream-colored suit, a crisp white shirt, and a silk tie that cost more than most people's monthly rent. He was reading the Wall Street Journal on his tablet, his brow furrowed in concentration. To his right sat Marcella. She was a vision of curated perfection. Her blonde waves were styled to bouncy precision. Her makeup was flawless even at this hour, and she wore a silk robe in a shade of blood red that clashed violently with the serene white of the room. She was slicing a grapefruit with the precision of a surgeon. "The gala list is finalized," Marcella said, her voice smooth. "The Vanderbilts are coming. And the mayor. It's going to be the event of the season, Richard." Everyone who is anyone will be there. Richard hummed in acknowledgement, not looking up. That's good, darling. Put it on my card. And regarding Lily, Marcella paused, taking a sip of her black coffee. I've been thinking. Maybe it's best if she doesn't attend this time. You know how she gets in crowds. Clumsy, anxious. It reflects poorly on us. Richard finally looked up. He blinked, his mind shifting gears from stocks to family. She's 5, Marcella. She's supposed to be clumsy. It's Christmas. She should be there. I'm just trying to protect her, Marcella sighed. A perfect performance of maternal concern. She gets so overwhelmed. And honestly, Richard, she's been difficult lately. Acting out. Breaking things. Lying? Richard frowned. About what? Small things. Saying she didn't eat when she did. Hiding toys. It's attention-seeking behavior. Classic stepchild syndrome. I'm handling it with strict boundaries, but we need to be firm. At that moment, the kitchen door swung open. Elena, the housekeeper who had been with Richard since before his first wife died, walked in. She carried a small plate with toast cut into triangles. Elena's face was drawn, her eyes darting nervously toward Marcella. Behind her, holding Elena's apron, was Lily. She was small, even for 5. She wore a bright Saks blue dress with white tights, an outfit Richard had bought her, insisting that blue was her color. But the dress hung loosely on her frame. Her hair was braided tightly, pulling at her scalp. She clutched a worn-out brown teddy bear to her chest as if it were a shield. Good morning, Daddy, Lily whispered. She didn't run to him. She didn't climb into his lap. She stood by the door, waiting for permission to enter. Richard smiled, a tired but genuine smile. Hey, Munchkin. Come give Daddy a hug. Lily took a step forward, but her eyes flicked to Marcella. Marcella didn't say a word. She just tapped her fingernail against her coffee cup. Tink, tink. Lily froze. She looked at Richard, then at the floor. I can't, Daddy. My hands are sticky. Sticky? Richard laughed. From what? Honey, Marcella cut in, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. Let her eat. She's dragging her feet this morning, and the driver is waiting. Sit down, Lily. Lily scrambled onto her chair. She kept her head down, picking at the toast. Richard watched her for a second, a vague sense of unease pricking the back of his neck. Why was she so quiet? Why did she look so pale? But then his phone buzzed. A notification about the Tokyo merger. The unease vanished, replaced by the urgency of business. I have to go, Richard said, standing up and downing the rest of his coffee. He walked over and kissed the top of Lily's head. Be good, Munchkin. Daddy will be back in a few days. He didn't see the way Lily squeezed her eyes shut. He didn't feel the tremor in her small shoulders. He walked out the door, believing the lie, leaving his lamb alone with the Wolf. We all want to believe our homes are safe. We want to believe the people we love are good. But sometimes, blindness is choice. Richard chose not to see the signs. If you think parents need to trust their gut instincts more, leave a comment below with trust. Let's wake Richard up. As the silver sedan whisked Richard toward the airport, he opened his wallet. Tucked behind his black credit cards was a photo. It was frayed at the edges, worn soft by years of touching. It was Sarah, his first wife. Lily's mother. The photo was taken in a park years ago. Sarah was laughing, her head thrown back, her hair a messy halo of curls. She held a baby Lily in her arms. There was no marble in that photo. No designer clothes. Just grass, sunlight, and a love so palpable it almost radiated heat through the paper. Sarah had been the warmth in Richard's life. She was the one who taught him that money was just a tool, not a goal. When she died in that car accident, a rainy Tuesday, much like this one, the warmth died with her. Richard had built the mansion not because he wanted it, but because he thought he should want it. He thought security meant thick walls and high gates. Then Marcella appeared. He met her 6 months after the funeral. She was an event planner for a charity he supported. She was everything Sarah wasn't. Organized, poised, ambitious. She wore sharp suits and spoke in complete paragraphs. She didn't laugh with her head thrown back. She chuckled politely. "You need order, Richard," she had told him on their second date. "You're drowning in grief. Let me help you build a raft." He thought she was saving him. He didn't realize she was building a cage. He looked at the photo of Sarah one last time. "I'm trying, Sarah," he whispered to the empty car. "I'm trying to give her a good life." If only Sarah could answer. If only she could scream from the grave. "Look closer, Richard. Look at the bruises on her soul. Grief can make us vulnerable to the wrong people. Predators smell sadness like sharks smell blood." Have you ever let someone into your life because you were lonely, only to regret it later? You are not alone. Subscribe to our channel to join a community that supports healing and awareness. Back at the mansion, the moment the heavy front door clicked shut, the atmosphere shifted instantly. It was physical, like the air pressure dropping before a tornado. Marcella stood by the window, watching Richard's car disappear down the long, winding driveway. She waited until it turned the corner onto the main road. Then, she turned around. The smile, that perfect, camera-ready smile, slid off her face like a mask melting in the heat. Underneath was a face of boredom and irritation. "Elena!" She barked. Elena appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. "Yes, madam. Get this breakfast out of here. It smells like grease. And open the windows. The air is stale." "But Lily hasn't finished," Elena ventured, glancing at the girl who was still nibbling on a piece of toast. Marcella walked over to the table. The silk of her red robe swished softly, a sound Lily had learned to fear. Marcella loomed over the girl. "Are you hungry, Lily?" Lily stopped chewing. She looked up, her eyes wide. "Yes, Marcella. I told you to call me mother," Marcella said, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Why do you defy me?" "I'm sorry, Mother. If you were truly sorry, you wouldn't eat like a pig. Look at you. Crumbs everywhere." Marcella swiped a finger across the pristine tablecloth, picking up a microscopic crumb. "Disgusting." She grabbed Lily's plate. The toast, the eggs, the fruit. She scraped it all into the trash bin with a violent motion. "No breakfast today," Marcella declared. "Maybe hunger will teach you manners. Go to your room. And take off that ridiculous blue dress. It's an eyesore. Put on the gray uniform I bought you." "But Daddy likes the blue." Lily started, her voice trembling. Marcella slammed her hand on the table. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the empty room. "Daddy isn't here," Marcella hissed, leaning down until her nose was inches from Lily's face. "Daddy is gone. He's in Tokyo. He's with important people. He doesn't want to think about a whiny, messy little girl. I am in charge now. Do you understand?" Lily nodded, tears filling her eyes. She slid off the chair, clutching her bear. "And leave that filthy thing here," Marcella added, pointing to the bear. "It carries germs." "No." Lily gasped, hugging the bear tighter. "It's Mommy's." Marcella grabbed the bear. She yanked it. Lily held on. For a second, there was a struggle, a grown woman fighting a 5-year-old child. Marcella was stronger. She ripped the bear from Lily's grip. One of the button eyes popped off and rolled across the marble floor. Click, 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 spin. "Oops," Marcella smirked. She tossed the bear onto the top of the high refrigerator, far out of reach. "Go, before I lock you in the closet again." Lily ran. She ran up the grand staircase, her socks slipping on the polished wood. She ran to her room and slammed the door, diving under her covers. She didn't cry loud. She had learned that noise brought punishment. She cried silently, her body shaking, mourning the loss of her bear, the loss of her breakfast, and the loss of her father, who she believed because Marcella told her so didn't love her anymore. This is the hardest part to watch. The isolation. The gaslighting. Making a child believe they are unlovable is the cruelest form of abuse. If you want to jump into the screen and save Lily, hit that like button. Let's show that love is stronger than fear. Elena stood in the pantry, watching through the crack in the door. Her heart was pounding so hard, she thought it might bruise her ribs. She wanted to run out. She wanted to scream at Marcella. She wanted to grab Lily and run away to her sister's house in Queens, but she couldn't. She needed this job. Her son was in college. Her husband was sick. And more importantly, she knew that if she got fired, Marcella would hire someone else, someone who wouldn't care. Someone who wouldn't sneak sandwiches to Lily's room. Someone who wouldn't leave the nightlight on. Elena was the only line of defense. And it was a thin, terrifying line. She waited until Marcella went into her private gym for her yoga session. Then she moved. She went to the refrigerator. She dragged a step stool over. She climbed up, her knees creaking, and retrieved the one-eyed bear. She tucked it under her apron. Then she grabbed a granola bar and an apple. She hurried up the back stairs, the servants' stairs. She crept down the hallway to Lily's room. The door was closed. She knocked softly. 3 taps. Their secret signal. The door opened a crack. A tear-streaked face peered out. Elena? Elena slipped inside. She handed Lily the food. Eat quickly, mi amor. Hide the wrappers. Then she pulled out the bear. Lily gasped. She grabbed the bear and buried her face in its matted fur. You found him! Is he hurt? He lost an eye, Elena whispered, stroking Lily's hair. But he can still see you with his heart. Just like your daddy. Daddy doesn't see me, Lily said, taking a bite of the apple. Marcella says I'm invisible to him. That is a lie, Elena said fiercely. A poison lie. Your father loves you more than the moon loves the night. But he is sleeping. He is walking with his eyes closed. We have to wake him up. How? Lily asked. I don't know yet, Elena admitted. But we will. Until then, you have to be brave. Like a soldier. Can you be a soldier for me? Lily nodded, wiping her nose. A soldier in a blue dress. Exactly. Now hide the bear. If she finds it again, she might burn it. Elena kissed Lily's forehead and slipped out. She went back to the kitchen, her hands shaking as she started to chop vegetables for Marcella's lunch. She knew she was walking on a knife's edge. One mistake, one caught whisper, and she would be gone. And Lily would be truly alone. True heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear aprons and sneak granola bars. Elena is risking everything for Lily. If you appreciate the Elenas of the world, drop a in the comments. We need more people like her. 2 days passed. Richard was in New York, preparing for the final leg of his trip to Tokyo. But something was gnawing at him. It was the breakfast. The way Lily had looked at the toast. The way she had flinched when Marcella tapped the cup. It was small, insignificant details, but they were piling up in his subconscious like snowdrifts. He was staying at the Plaza Hotel. He sat in his suite, looking out at Central Park. He picked up his phone to call home. But stopped. If I call, Marcella will answer. She always answers. And she put Lily on the speakerphone. And Lily will say, I'm fine, Daddy. Just like a script. He needed to hear what happened when he wasn't on the phone. Richard had a friend. An old college buddy named David who worked in private security. High-end stuff. Corporate espionage protection. Richard called him. David, I need a favor. I need something discreet. What kind of discreet? David asked. Tracking a car? Bugging an office? A hair clip, Richard said. For a child. I need a listening device that looks like a piece of jewelry. High-fidelity audio. Real-time streaming to an app. And it needs to be undetectable. There was a pause on the line. Richard. Is everything okay? This sounds domestic. I just need to know she's safe, David. Please. David sighed. I have a prototype. A butterfly clip. It was designed for kidnapping targets, diplomats' kids. It records on motion and voice activation. Battery lasts 48 hours. I can bike it over to you in an hour. Do it. When the package arrived, Richard opened it. The clip was beautiful. Silver. Shiny. Innocent. It looked like a gift. It was a Trojan horse. Richard took a helicopter back to Connecticut that evening. He told Marcella his flight was delayed. He snuck into the house using his own key. It was 9 p.m. The house was quiet. He went up to Lily's room. She was asleep. She looked so small in the big bed. He sat beside her. He brushed the hair from her forehead. "I'm sorry I'm leaving again," he whispered. "But I'm leaving part of me with you." He gently clipped the silver butterfly into her hair, near the braid where she wouldn't feel it while sleeping. He synchronized it with his phone. The app lit up. Signal active. He kissed her cheek and left the house as silently as a ghost. He got back in the car and headed to the airport for his flight to Tokyo. He felt sick. He felt like a spy in his own life. But as the plane took off, soaring over the dark Atlantic, Richard Sterling had no idea that the little silver butterfly was about to bring down a hurricane. This is the turning point. The trap is set. Richard is flying away, but his ears are staying behind. What do you think you will hear first? Make sure you are subscribed because the next part is going to shock you. Tokyo, a city of lights, noise, and endless motion. But in the penthouse suite of the Amen Hotel, the silence was absolute. Richard Sterling stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, looking out at the sprawling metropolis. It was raining, a soft, persistent drizzle that blurred the neon signs of Shinjuku into streaks of watercolor light. He was supposed to be sleeping. His body clock was 12 hours behind, still stuck in Connecticut time. But sleep was impossible. His phone sat on the glass coffee table like an unexploded bomb. The app connected to Lily's hair clip showed a green dot, status, active. New recordings available. 14 recordings. 14 windows into the life of his daughter when he wasn't there. He poured himself a glass of whiskey, his hand trembling slightly. He didn't drink it. He just needed to hold something cold to ground himself. He sat down. He put on his noise-canceling headphones. The world outside, the rain, the traffic, the hum of the hotel vanished. It was just him and the digital ghost of his home. He pressed play on recording number 1. Static, rustling fabric. A door opening. "Good morning, Bear," Lily's voice whispered. It was so clear it felt like she was sitting next to him. "Daddy is gone. But he left us the magic butterfly." Richard smiled, a tear leaking from the corner of his eye. She was talking to the clip. Then the tone shifted. Footsteps. Hard, clicking heels on marble. "Who are you talking to?" Marcella's voice cut through the recording like a serrated knife. "No one, Mother. Just my bear. I told you to throw that thing away. It smells like poverty." Sound of fabric tearing. "No. Please," Lily screamed. "Stop whining. Or I'll give you something to really cry about. Get downstairs. You have chores. And don't think about eating until the floor shines." Richard ripped the headphones off. He gasped for air, his chest heaving. The violence in her voice was casual, practiced. It wasn't a sudden burst of anger. It was a lifestyle. He paced the room. "Calm down," he told himself. "You need more. You need enough to bury her." He put the headphones back on. He forced himself to listen. Recording number 2. Recording number 3. Recording #4. It was a catalog of cruelty. Verbal abuse. Emotional manipulation. The sounds of a child being forced to clean, being denied food, being locked in dark rooms. But then came recording #9. And that changed everything. Listening to the suffering of a child is the hardest thing a parent can do. But Richard isn't turning away. He is gathering ammunition. If you have the stomach for justice, stay with us. The next recording reveals the true conspiracy. Recording number 9 didn't start with Lily's voice. It started with the clinking of ice in heavy crystal glasses. "Cheers, darling." It was Marcella. But her voice was different, lighter, seductive, victorious. "To the idiot in Tokyo," a male voice responded. Richard froze. He knew that voice. It was James Miller, his family lawyer. The man who handled his estate planning. The man he played golf with. Did he sign the power of attorney? Marcella asked. "Digital signature is authorized." James laughed. "As soon as the market opens tomorrow, we can start moving the assets. The shell companies in the Caymans are ready. And the girl? Switzerland. Boarding school. Or maybe just a state facility. Who cares? Once the accounts are drained and the divorce papers are served, she's his problem. If he can even afford her." "I hate looking at her," Marcella hissed. "She looks just like his dead wife. Every time she cries, I want to scream. I locked her in the basement for 2 hours yesterday just to get some peace." "You're terrible," James chuckled. "I love it." Sound of kissing. Richard took the headphones off slowly. He set them down on the table with deliberate care. The sadness was gone. The shock was gone. In its place was a cold, white-hot clarity. They weren't just abusing his daughter. They were dismantling his entire life. They were stealing his fortune, his legacy, and his child's future. And they were laughing about it. He looked at his reflection in the dark window. The tired, grieving widower was gone. Staring back was a predator. He picked up his phone. He didn't call the police. Not yet, that would be too easy. Too quick. He dialed David, his security specialist. "David," Richard said. His voice was steady, devoid of emotion. "I need the jet ready in an hour. And I need you to pull the security logs for the house. I want video to match the audio." "Richard?" David sounded worried. "What did you hear?" "I heard the end of my marriage," Richard said. "And the beginning of a war. Betrayal by a spouse is painful. Betrayal by a friend is worse. But betrayal by both? That requires a special kind of revenge. Richard is about to go John Wick on their financial lives. If you are ready for the takedown, hit that like button." The flight back to Connecticut took 14 hours. For the pilots, it was a routine long haul. For Richard, it was a war room session. He didn't sleep. He sat in the leather chair of his private jet, surrounded by papers. He had his laptop open, connected to the secure server of Sterling Capital. He was moving money. Not to the Cayman accounts, but away from them. He was freezing assets. He was locking James out of the system. He was rewriting his will. He watched the sun rise over the Atlantic Ocean. It was a blood-red dawn. "Appropriate," he murmured. He opened the app again. Live stream active. He put the earbud in. "Lily, get down here." It was happening right now. In real time. "You're going to be the maid today." The agency girl called in sick. "Put on this uniform." "But it's too big, Mother." "I don't care. The guests arrive at 4 o'clock. If I see one speck of dust, you'll sleep in the shed." Richard checked his watch. It was 2 p.m. EST. He would land at 3:30. Just enough time. He texted, "David, meet me at the hangar. Bring the team. And bring the police." He closed his laptop. He went to the small bathroom on the jet. He splashed cold water on his face. He looked at himself in the mirror. He shaved his stubble. He put on a fresh white shirt. He didn't put on a tie. He rolled up his sleeves. He looked like a man ready to work. Ready to clean up a mess. The anticipation is killing me. He is racing against the clock to save Lily from the party humiliation. Do you think he will make it in time? Type "Hurry Richard" in the comments to speed up the jet. The Sterling estate was transformed. White tents dotted the massive lawn. A string quartet played Mozart. Waiters in tuxedos circulated with trays of champagne and caviar. Marcella was in her element. She wore a new dress, emerald green this time, tight and shimmering. She moved through the crowd of Connecticut's elite like a shark in a koi pond. "Oh yes, Richard is devastated he couldn't be here," she lied to the mayor. "But business in Tokyo is booming. You know how dedicated he is. And where is little Lily?" The mayor's wife asked, looking around. Oh, poor dear, Marcella sighed, putting a hand to her chest. She's having one of her episodes. She insisted on dressing up. She's playing servant today. The therapist says we should indulge her fantasies. How patient you are, the mayor's wife cooed Dot at the edge of the party. Near the buffet table, a small figure stood. Lily Dot. She was drowning in a black maid's uniform that was 3 sizes too big. Her sleeves were rolled up, revealing thin arms. She was holding a heavy silver tray of oysters. Her arms shook. Steady, James Miller hissed as he walked by, grabbing a glass of champagne. Don't drop those. They cost more than your life. Lily bit her lip. She touched the silver butterfly clip in her hair. It was her only comfort. Daddy said it's magic, she thought. Daddy said he's listening. But the clip was silent. And the tray was heavy. And her feet hurt. Just then, a low rumble began to vibrate the champagne glasses. It started soft. A thrum 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 in the distance. Then it grew louder. The guests stopped talking. The string quartet faltered. Everyone looked up. A black helicopter, sleek and unmarked, was descending from the sky. It wasn't landing at the helipad in the back. It was landing right on the front lawn, kicking up a storm of wind that sent napkins and hats flying. What on earth? Marcella screamed, holding her hair. The helicopter touched down, crushing a bed of prize-winning roses. The door slid open. Richard Sterling jumped out. The wind whipped his white shirt. He didn't duck. He walked straight into the rotor wash, his eyes locked on one person. Marcella. Talk about making an entrance. He literally crashed the party. This is the definition of main character energy. If you are cheering right now, smash that subscribe button. The confrontation starts now. Richard strode across the lawn. He didn't look at the mayor. He didn't look at his neighbors. He walked straight to the buffet table. He took the heavy silver tray from Lily, shaking hands, and dropped it. Clang. Oysters and ice scattered across the grass. Daddy! Lily cried, terrified. Richard knelt down. He ignored the ruined food. He ignored the mud staining his knees. He grabbed Lily and pulled her into a hug so tight it knocked the wind out of her. I'm here, he choked out. I'm here, baby. I got you. Marcella recovered from her shock. She marched over, her heels sinking into the grass. Richard, have you lost your mind? You ruined the roses. You scared the guests. Richard stood up. Stood up. He kept one hand on Lily's shoulder. He turned to face his wife. I ruined the roses? Richard asked, his voice deceptively calm. That's your concern? We have guests, Richard. Marcella hissed through a fake smile. Go inside. Get changed. We'll talk about your dramatic entrance later. We'll talk now, Richard said. He pulled out his phone. He tapped the screen. Suddenly, the speakers that had been playing Mozart crackled. What are you doing? James Miller stepped forward, trying to intervene. Richard, you're stressed. Let's go to the study. Sit down, James, Richard said, not even looking at him. Or I'll let David handle you. 2 large men in black suits, David's security team, stepped out from behind the helicopter. James froze. Richard held up his phone. I want everyone to hear the episode my daughter was having. He pressed play. The garden fell silent. You little parasite. If you tell your father, I'll lock you in the basement forever. Marcella's voice, amplified to 100 decibels. The guests gasped. Clean it again with your tongue. Daddy doesn't love you. He left because he can't stand looking at you. Marcella's face went from flushed to pale white in seconds. She looked around, desperate. It's fake. It's a recording. We were rehearsing a play. A play? Richard asked. The audio continued. James, draw up the papers. We'll transfer the assets to the Cayman account. James Miller turned and ran. He actually sprinted toward the woods. Get him, Richard said calmly to David. One of the security guards tackled James before he even reached the tree line. It was humiliating. It was perfect. Richard looked at Marcella. She was trembling now. Not from anger, but from fear. You said she was clumsy, Richard said, stepping closer. You said she was difficult. You said she was broken. He reached out and gently touched the silver butterfly clip in Lily's hair. She wasn't broken, Marcella. She was bugged. She wasn't broken. She was bugged. That line. Chills. Absolute chills. Richard just dropped the mic on his entire marriage. Seeing Marcella's world crumble is the justice we needed. But wait, the police are here. It's not over until the cuffs click. The police cars arrived moments later. Richard had timed it perfectly. The detective approached Marcella. She tried to play the victim. She cried. She screamed. She even tried to faint. Save the performance for the jury, lady, the detective said, snapping the handcuffs on her wrists. Richard didn't watch her being led away. He was busy. He was kneeling in the grass, helping Lily take off the maid's apron. This is trash, Richard said, throwing the black fabric onto the pile of oysters. We're done with uniforms. Where are we going? Lily asked. Somewhere safe, Richard said. Somewhere with no basements. He picked her up. She buried her face in his neck, smelling his cologne and the helicopter fuel. It was the best smell in the world. He walked past the guests. He walked past the mayor. He walked past the wreckage of his social life. Richard? Mrs. Vanderbilt called out weakly. What about the charity auction? Richard stopped. He looked at the wealthy crowd, standing there with their champagne and their judgments. Keep the money, Richard said. You'll need it for bail when they investigate James's other clients. He walked to his car, not the limo, but his old SUV. He put Lily in the front seat. Ready for an adventure? Ready, Lily whispered as they drove down the driveway. Passing the police cars taking Marcella and James to jail. Richard reached over and took the butterfly clip from Lily's hair. You don't need this anymore, he said. He rolled down the window and tossed the silver clip into the bushes. It had done its job. The magic was real. But now they didn't need magic. They had each other. And that is how you exit a toxic life. Richard literally threw the spy device away because he plans to be present from now on. No more spying. Just parenting. If you're crying happy tears like I am, hit that subscribe button. We have one final part, the healing. The sun had long since dipped below the horizon when Richard Sterling pulled his SUV off the main highway and onto the winding country roads of Vermont. The silence inside the car was thick, but it wasn't the oppressive silence of the mansion. It was a decompressed silence, like the air in a room after a bomb has been diffused. Lily had fallen asleep in the passenger seat miles ago. Her head lolled against the window, her breath fogging up the glass in rhythmic puffs. She was still wearing the oversized t-shirt Richard had bought. Her at a gas station stopped bright yellow with a cartoon sun on it, because she refused to wear anything that reminded her of Marcella. Richard gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. The adrenaline of the helicopter raid, the confrontation in the garden, and the sight of Marcella in handcuffs was fading, replaced by a bone-deep exhaustion. But beneath the fatigue was a terrifying clarity. I saved her. Now I have to heal her. He looked at the GPS. Destination: Lake Willow Cabin. 15 miles. He had bought the cabin 3 years ago, as an investment property but had never visited. Marcella hated rustic. She hated bugs. She hated silence. So the cabin had sat empty, a ghost house waiting for inhabitants. As the car crunched over the gravel driveway, the headlights swept across the structure. It was made of dark, rough-hewn timber, with a wide porch that wrapped around the front like a welcoming embrace. It looked solid, unpretentious, safe. Richard turned off the engine. The ticking of the cooling metal was the only sound in the vast, starry night. He walked around to the passenger side and gently unbuckled Lily. She stirred, blinking groggy. Are we there? She whispered, her voice rough with sleep. We're here, Richard said softly. Home. He lifted her into his arms. She felt impossibly light, a fragility that made his chest ache. She buried her face in his neck inhaling the scent of pine and night air. The key turned in the lock with a heavy thunk. Richard pushed the door open with his hip. Inside, the air was stale and cold. Dust motes danced in the beam of his phone flashlight. Furniture was covered in white sheets, looking like phantom guests frozen in time. "It's scary," Lily murmured, tightening her grip on his shirt. "It's just sleeping," Richard assured her. "How's it sleep when no one is there?" "We just have to wake it up." He set her down on a dusty armchair and went to the massive stone fireplace. He had never built a fire in his life. That was what staff were for. But tonight there was no staff. There was only him. He gathered some dry logs from the bin, crumpled up old newspapers, and struck a match. The flame sputtered, then caught. Slowly, hesitantly, the fire began to crackle, casting a warm, dancing orange light across the room. The shadows retreated into the corners. "See?" Richard said, dusting off his hands. "Awake!" Lily stared at the fire, mesmerized. "It's warm." "It is." "Marcella said fire is for bad girls," she whispered, her eyes never leaving the flames. "She said she would burn my toys if I didn't clean." Richard felt a surge of rage so potent it almost choked him. He walked over and knelt before her, taking her small, cold hands in his. "Marcella lied," he said fiercely. "Fire is for warmth. It's for cooking. It's for stories. And in this house we burn wood. Never toys, never." He pulled the white sheet off the sofa with a flourish, creating a cloud of dust that made Lily sneeze. "Bless you," he smiled. "Tonight, we camp. Tomorrow, we build." They slept in the living room that night, huddled together under a mountain of blankets they found in a cedar chest. Richard didn't sleep. He watched the fire die down to embers, listening to the wind howl outside. Vowing to the ceiling beams that he would rebuild their world brick by brick. Even if it took the rest of his life, the first night in a new place is always the hardest, but also the most important. Richard is learning that a house isn't a home until you make it safe. If you've ever had to start over from scratch, you know this feeling. Drop a in the comments for the warmth of new beginnings. The first week was a battlefield of trauma. Responses. Richard woke up at 6 a.m. instinctively reaching for his phone to check the Tokyo markets. Then he remembered. No markets. No board meetings. No suit. He went to the kitchen. It was rustic copper pots, a farmhouse sink, a window overlooking the lake. He decided to make pancakes. He mixed the batter, humming a tune. The smell of butter and vanilla filled the air. Lily walked in. She was wearing the yellow t-shirt, her hair a tangled mess. She stopped in the doorway, her body rigid. "Good morning, sunshine," Richard called out, flipping a pancake. Lily didn't answer. She walked to the corner of the room, picked up a broom that was taller than her and started sweeping. "Lily?" Richard turned down the stove. "What are you doing?" "Morning chores," she recited robotically. "Sweep the kitchen. Dust the baseboards. Polish the silver." "Who told you to do that?" "The list," she whispered. "If I don't finish the list before breakfast, I don't eat." Richard turned off the stove completely. He walked over and gently took the broom from her hands. "There is no list," he said, his voice trembling. "Not here. In this house, your only job is to be a kid. Your job is to eat pancakes. Your job is to play." Lily looked at him with wide, confused eyes. "But if I don't work, I'm useless." "You are not a tool, Lily. You are my daughter." Richard picked her up and sat her on the counter. "Listen to me. You are useful just by breathing. You make me happy just by being here. Okay." She nodded slowly, but the fear didn't leave her eyes. It would take more than words. It would take time. Breakfast was a silent affair. Lily ate quickly, hunched over her plate as if protecting her food from theft. Richard watched her, his heart breaking with every bite she took. He realized then that Marcella hadn't just hurt her. She had rewired her. He needed help. That afternoon, he drove into the nearby village of Stowe. It was a picture-perfect New England town white steeple church. General store, Red Barns. He found a small office with a wooden sign. Dr. Eleanor Reese.
Child psychology and art therapy. He walked in without an appointment.
The receptionist looked up, surprised to see a man who clearly exuded Manhattan CEO energy despite his flannel shirt. I need help, Richard said simply. My daughter. She's broken, and I don't know how to fix her.
Dr. Reese came out of her office.
She was a woman in her 60s with wild gray hair and paint-stained overalls. She looked at Richard, really looked at him. We don't fix children here, Mr. Sterling, she said softly. We listen to them. Bring her tomorrow. We don't fix children, we listen to them. That line hits hard. Trauma isn't a broken bone you set. It's a knot you untangle. Richard is humble enough to ask for help, which is a huge step.
If you support therapy and mental health, please subscribe.
Let's normalize asking for help. The first session with Dr. Reese was a disaster. Lily refused to speak. She sat in the corner of the therapy room, which was filled with beanbags, toys, and easels. She clutched her teddy bear and stared at the floor. Dr. Reese didn't push. She sat on the floor across the room and started painting on a canvas. She painted a big blue sky. I like blue, Dr. Reese said to no one in particular.
But sometimes blue feels cold. So I add yellow.
She mixed in a bright sun. Lily watched from the corner of her eye.
Mr. Sterling, Dr. Reese said after the session.
She's locked inside a room in her mind. Marcella took away her voice. We need to give her a new language. Words are too dangerous for her right now. Words were used to hurt her.
We need images.
How? Richard asked. Buy her art supplies. Not just crayons, everything.
Clay, paint, charcoal.
Let her make a mess. A big, terrible mess. She needs to learn that making a mess doesn't lead to punishment. Richard took the advice literally. He went to the local art supply store and bought everything. Canvases the size of doors. Buckets of acrylic paint. Brushes. Sponges. When they got home, he cleared out the garage. He laid down white tarps. What is this? Lily asked, eyeing the buckets. This, Richard said, opening a can of bright red paint. Is the rage room red? Lily flinched. Marcella wore red. Exactly, Richard said. Do you hate red?
Yes. Me too.
So let's throw it.
He dipped a large brush into the red paint and hurled it at the white canvas. Splat. A chaotic,
violent burst of crimson. Lily gasped. Daddy, you made a mess. I did. Richard grinned. Your turn. He handed her a brush. She hesitated. She looked at the tarp. She looked at his face. Then with a small, timid motion, she flicked the brush. A tiny drop of red hit the canvas. Bigger, Richard encouraged. She threw it harder. Splat. Harder. Lily dipped her hands into the bucket. She pulled out globs of red paint and threw them. She started screaming. At first, it was a small cry, but then it grew into a roar. I hate you. She screamed at the canvas. I hate the red dress. I hate the closet. She threw blue paint. Yellow paint. Black paint. She cried and screamed and threw paint until she was covered in a rainbow of anger, and the canvas looked like a war zone. When she was done, she collapsed onto the tarp, breathing hard. Richard sat down next to her, pulling her paint-covered body into his lap. He didn't care about his clothes. I made a mess, she sobbed. It's a beautiful mess. Richard kissed her hair. And we are not going to clean it up. We're going to let it dry and hang it on the wall. This scene is pure catharsis. Sometimes you just need to scream and throw things to let the poison out.
Richard creating a safe space for her anger is top-tier parenting.
Have you ever used art or exercise to get anger out? Tell me your method in the comments. While Lily fought her demons with paint, Richard fought his with paperwork. The legal battle against Marcella and James was raging in New York. Richard attended hearings via video call from his study in the cabin. He watched Marcella on the screen. She looked haggard.
The prison orange didn't suit her.
Her roots were showing gray streaks in the blonde. The defendant claims coercion, the prosecutor said. She claims she was manipulated by Mr. Miller. Richard unmuted his microphone. Objection, he said calmly, though he wasn't a lawyer. I have 400 hours of audio recordings. In every single one, she is the alpha. She's the architect.
She laughed while she planned to rob me.
The judge nodded. We have the transcripts, Mr. Sterling. One afternoon, the verdict finally came down. Richard was chopping wood outside, a new hobby he picked up to channel his own aggression. The phone rang. Guilty, his lawyer said. 20 years. No parole for 15. Richard put the axe down. He looked at the lake. The water was calm, reflecting the autumn trees. He walked inside. Lily was at the kitchen table, drawing. Is the bad lady gone forever? She asked without looking up. How did you know? You walk different, she said. Your footsteps aren't heavy anymore.
Richard sat down.
She's gone, Lily, for 20 years.
That's longer than you've been alive. Twice as long.
Will she be old when she gets out? Very old. Good, Lily said. She drew a cage on her paper. Then she drew a stick figure inside it. Then she scribbled over the stick figure until it disappeared under a mass of black ink. She can't find us. She can't find us, Richard agreed. That night, for the first time in months, Lily didn't ask for the nightlight. She slept in the dark with the window open, listening to the crickets. Justice is served, but the real victory is the peace of mind. Knowing the monster is locked away allows the healing to truly begin. Marcella getting 20 years feels like justice, but what do you think? Was it enough? Winter arrived in Vermont with a vengeance.
Snow buried the cabin up to the windowsills.
The lake froze into a sheet of white glass. They were snowed in. For the old Richard, this would have been a nightmare. Being trapped. No meetings. No travel. But for the new Richard, it was a gift. They built forts in the living room.
They read every book in the house.
Richard taught Lily how to play chess. Knights move in an L shape, he explained. They can jump over walls. Like us? Lily asked. We jumped over the wall. Exactly like us. One morning, they bundled up and went out onto the frozen lake.
The air was so cold it burned their lungs.
It's quiet, Lily said. Listen closer, Richard said. They stood still. Crack, hump. The ice shifted. A crow cawed. The wind whistled through the pines. The world is talking, Lily whispered. It's telling us it's okay to rest, Richard said. They lay down on the snow, staring up at the gray sky. They made snow angels. Daddy? Yeah? I miss Mom. It was the first time she had mentioned Sarah in a year. Richard's heart clenched. I miss her too, baby. Every day. Do you think she saw? What Marcella did? I think... Richard chose his words carefully. I think she was screaming at me the whole time. But I had my ears closed. I'm sorry I didn't listen to her. Or you. Lily rolled over in the snow and looked at him. Her cheeks were bright pink. You listened in the end. You came with the helicopter. You were like a superhero. I was a late superhero, Richard said, wiping a tear that had frozen on his cheek. Better late than never, Lily said, patting his arm with her mitten. Better late than never. Children are so forgiving. It's heartbreaking and beautiful. Richard carrying the guilt of his late wife is a heavy burden, but sharing it with Lily lightens the load. If this snow scene warmed your heart, share this video with a parent. Spring brought mud, melting ice, and a new challenge. School. Richard had enrolled Lily in the local village school. It wasn't a prestigious prep school. It was a small building with mismatched chairs and a playground that needed painting. On the first day, Lily refused to get out of the car. They will laugh at me, she panicked. I don't have a uniform. I don't know the rules. There are no uniforms, Richard said. And the only rule is be kind. I can't go. My stomach hurts.
Richard reached into his pocket.
He pulled out the silver butterfly clip.
The spy device. He had retrieved it from the bush that day, kept it in a drawer. He had removed the battery and the microphone. Now it was just silver.
Look, he said. Lily recoiled.
The spy clip?
It's not a spy clip anymore, Richard said.
I took the electronics out. Now it's just a shield. A magic shield. He pinned it onto her backpack strap. As long as you have this, you are protected. It reminds you that I always have your back. Even if I'm not there, I'm with you.
Lily touched the cold metal. She took a deep breath.
A shield?
Captain Lily's shield.
She opened the car door.
She walked toward the school.
She stopped once, looked back, touched the clip, and then walked inside. Richard waited in the parking lot for 6 hours. He didn't check his phone.
He just watched the door dot when Lily came out. She was smiling. I made a friend,
she shouted, running to the car. Her name is Maya. She likes my clip.
She thinks it's a real butterfly.
Did you tell her it's magic?
No, Lily winked.
That's our secret. Turning the object of trauma into a symbol of strength.
That is brilliant.
Richard repurposed the spy clip into a comfort object. It shows how we can rewrite our own stories. If you have a lucky charm, tell us what it is in the comments.
A year later,
the village community center was buzzing with activity. It was the annual spring art gala.
It wasn't the Met Gala. There was no champagne, only fruit punch.
There were no gowns, only jeans.
But to Richard, it was the most important event of his life. Lily had been working on a secret project with Dr. Aris for months.
She wouldn't let Richard see it.
It's a surprise, she insisted.
Closing the door to her makeshift studio in the barn. Richard walked into the hall, holding Elena's arm.
Elena was beaming, wearing a hat with flowers on it.
Where is it? Richard asked, scanning the walls filled with children's doodles.
Over there, Elena pointed.
The big one.
In the center of the room, covered by a cloth, stood a large easel. Lily stood next to it, wearing a dress she had picked out herself, yellow with sunflowers. She looked nervous.
Ladies and gentlemen, the art teacher announced.
And now our featured artist, Lily Sterling. Lily pulled the cloth. The painting was massive.
It was chaotic.
It was messy.
It was brilliant. It depicted a dark, scary forest on the left side.
The trees looked like claws.
In the shadows, you could vaguely see a red dress and a closed door. But on the right side of the painting,
the forest broke open.
A bright, golden light flooded the canvas.
In the center of the light stood a man. He wasn't wearing a suit. He was wearing flannel.
He was holding a hand out to a small girl. And the girl in the painting wasn't hiding.
She was running
toward the light. The title of the painting was scrawled at the bottom in bold,
black letters.
The day the door opened,
Richard stared at the painting. He felt the tears coming, hot and fast.
He didn't wipe them away. He saw the darkness he had allowed.
He saw the light he had fought to bring back. He walked up to Lily. The crowd applauded, but he didn't hear them.
It's everything,
he whispered, kneeling down.
That's you.
Lily pointed to the man in the light. You opened the door.
No, baby, Richard said, kissing her forehead.
You walked through it.
You did the hard part. He hugged her, right there in the middle of the crowded gym, surrounded by art and punch and noisy neighbors. He held her until the fear of the past finally, truly let go. Art heals. This painting represents her entire journey from the dark basement to the light of love.
I am sobbing.
If this moment touched you, please subscribe.
We have one final scene to show you where they are now. 5 years later. Richard sat on the dock, his legs dangling in the water.
His hair was grayer now.
His face lined with the good kind of wrinkle smile lines. A teenager walked down the dock. Lily. She was 13. She sat next to him.
She was holding a college brochure. Yale? Richard asked, raising an eyebrow.
That's close to the old house.
I know, Lily said, looking at the water.
I'm not scared of Connecticut anymore, Dad. I can go back. I'm stronger now. Richard put his arm around her shoulders. You are. You're the strongest person I know. Besides, she smiled, bumping his shoulder. I have to go back. I have to make sure no one else is wearing blue dresses they don't like. You want to study law? Child advocacy, she corrected. I want to be the one who listens. Richard looked at his daughter. The survivor. The advocate. The artist. He thought about the silver clip he had thrown into the bush years ago. He thought about the fear. The silence. And he looked at the lake, calm and vast. You'll be great, he said. I know, she said. I had a good teacher. Who? Dr. Aris? No, she rested her head on his shoulder. You. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden path across the water. A loon called out in the distance. The world was quiet, but it wasn't empty. It was full. Full of love. Full of promise. Full of life. Richard took a deep breath, inhaling the pine and the peace. He was finally home. And that is the story of Richard and Lily. From a silver spy clip that revealed a nightmare, to a golden sunset that promised a future. It teaches us that while we cannot change the past, we can always build a new future. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. If you believe in second chances, if you believe in the power of a father's love, please subscribe to our channel. We share stories that matter. I'm Channel Name, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep your eyes open, and hold your loved ones close, before the peace of the lake could truly settle in. The war had one final battle. The deposition. 2 months after the arrest, Richard had to return to the city. Not to the mansion, he refused to step foot there, but to a neutral law office in downtown Hartford. He sat at a long, polished mahogany table. On the other side sat Marcella. She was no longer in the red dress. She wore a gray prison jumpsuit, her wrists handcuffed to the table. Her blonde hair, once her crown, was pulled back in a severe greasy bun. Without her makeup, her face looked sharp, almost skeletal. Richard's lawyer, a pit bull of a man named Mr. Stone, sat beside him. Mrs. Sterling, Mr. Stone began, clicking his pen. We are here to discuss the assets you attempted to transfer to the Cayman Islands on November 14th. Marcella didn't look at Mr. Stone. She looked straight at Richard. Her eyes were burning with a mixture of hatred and desperation. I did it for us, Richard, she said, her voice raspy from lack of use. To protect our assets from the market crash. You were always too sentimental about money. Richard didn't flinch. He leaned forward, his elbows on the table. You called my daughter a parasite, Marcella. Was that for us too? Marcella laughed. A dry, humorless sound. Oh, please. She's a manipulative little brat. She played you, Richard. She played the victim, and you bought it because you're still grieving Sarah. Mr. Stone intervened. Please limit your answers to the financial questions. No, Richard said, holding up a hand. Let her speak. I want to hear it. He looked Marcella in the eye. You locked a 5-year-old in a basement. You starved her. You made her clean floors with her tongue. Do you deny the audio? Audio can be edited, Marcella spat. You tech people. You can make anything sound real. Richard pulled a small object from his pocket. It wasn't the spy clip. It was a receipt. This is a receipt from a pharmacy in Greenwich, Richard said, sliding it across the table. Dated 3 weeks ago. For sleeping pills. Prescription strength. Marcella's eyes flickered. We found traces of zolpidem in Lily's hair samples, Richard said, his voice dropping to a deadly whisper. You weren't just starving her. You were drugging her. To keep her quiet while you hosted your parties. The room went deathly silent. Even Marcella's lawyer looked uncomfortable. That was for me, Marcella stammered. I have insomnia. You gave it to an 8-year-old, Richard roared, slamming his fist on the table. You poisoned my child. Marcella flinched, shrinking back into her chair.
For the first time, the mask of arrogance cracked completely. She wasn't a mastermind. She was just a cruel, small woman caught in a lie. I want full custody, Richard said, standing up. I want the divorce finalized today. And I want you to know that every penny you tried to steal is going to a fund for abused children. In your name. The Marcella Sterling Fund for Victims. Everyone will know exactly who you are. He walked out of the room. He didn't look back. But as he closed the door, he heard the sound of Marcella screaming, a primal scream of someone who realizes they have lost everything. Confronting an abuser is terrifying. But watching them shrink when exposed is the ultimate victory. Richard stood his ground. If you've ever had to stand up to a bully, you know how hard this is. Type brave in the comments to support Richard. Back at the cabin, winter was settling in. Real winter. Vermont winter. The snow started on a Tuesday afternoon and didn't stop for 3 days. It piled up against the windows, turning the cabin into a cozy buried cocoon. But for Lily, the snow brought fear. The power went out on the second night. The lights flickered and died, plunging the cabin into darkness. Lily was in the living room drawing. When the lights went out, she screamed. A high, piercing shriek that sent Richard running from the kitchen with a flashlight. I'm here. I'm here. Richard shone the beam on her. She was curled into a ball under the table, rocking back and forth. The basement. I'm in the basement. Don't lock the door. Lily, look at me. Richard crawled under the table with her. You are not in the basement. We are in the cabin. The storm just knocked the power out. It's dark, she sobbed. She comes in the dark. Richard turned the flashlight up, creating a glowing tent of light under the table. Then we make our own light. He went to the fireplace and threw on 3 large logs. The fire roared to life, casting dancing shadows on the walls. He lit candles, dozens of them. Vanilla, pine, cinnamon. He placed them on every surface until the room glowed like a cathedral. See? Richard said, sitting on the rug. The dark can't touch us here. But the noise. Lily whispered. The wind was howling outside, rattling the window panes. That's just the wind, Richard said. It's trying to get in to warm up, but our walls are too strong. We are safe inside the fortress. He went to the kitchen and brought back a bag of marshmallows and long metal skewers. Since the power is out, we can't use the stove, Richard said mischievously. I guess we have to eat marshmallows for dinner. Don't tell Dr. Aries. Lily's eyes widened. Marshmallows for dinner? It's a survival rule. Richard nodded solemnly. Rule number 1 of power outages. Sugar is mandatory. They spent the next hour roasting marshmallows over the fire. Richard taught her how to get them perfectly golden brown without burning them, though she liked to set hers on fire and blow them out. Sugar and warmth loosened the knot of fear in her chest. Daddy? Lily asked, her mouth sticky. Yeah, bug? If the power goes out forever, will we stay here? We will stay here as long as you want, Richard promised. Even if we have to live by candlelight like pirates. I like pirates. She yawned, leaning her head on his knee. She fell asleep right there on the rug, bathed in the warm glow of the fire. Richard watched her, listening to the storm rage outside, feeling a profound sense of gratitude. The storm was fierce, but the peace inside was stronger, turning a scary moment into a core memory that is parenting gold. Richard took a blackout and turned it into a camping trip. If this cozy scene made you smile, hit that like button. We all need a little light in the dark. December arrived, bringing with it the heavy weight of memories. Christmas at the mansion had always been a production. Professional decorators, 12-foot trees that matched the drapes, catered parties where children were seen and not heard. What do we do for Christmas? Lily asked one morning, looking at the calendar. We do it our way, Richard said. He drove them to a local tree farm. Not a fancy one, just a guy named Old Man Miller selling pines out of his truck. Pick one, Richard said. Lily walked through the rows of trees. She ignored the tall, perfect ones. She stopped in front of a small, slightly lopsided pine tree with a bare patch on one side.
This one, she said. That one? Richard laughed. It's a bit Charlie Brown, isn't it? It needs love, Lily said fiercely. Like me. Richard stopped laughing. He nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. You're right. It's perfect. They dragged the little tree home and set it up in the living room. It leaned a little to the left, but it smelled amazing. Then came the problem of ornaments. They had left everything at the mansion, the crystal baubles, the gold stars. We have nothing to put on it, Lily said sadly. Sure we do, Richard said. We have popcorn. We have cranberries. We have paper. They spent the next 3 days making decorations. They strung popcorn on thread, eating half of it. They cut snowflakes out of printer paper. They painted pine cones with glitter glue. Richard found an old box of lights in the garage. Half of them didn't work, but when he plugged them in, the tree glowed with a soft, multicolored light. On Christmas Eve, Richard gave Lily her present. It wasn't an iPad. It wasn't a pony. It was a wooden box. Lily opened it. Inside were brushes, paints, and a sketchbook with her name engraved on the cover. Lily Sterling, artist. So you can draw your way out of anything, Richard whispered. Lily looked at the book, then at him. She reached under the tree and pulled out a crudely wrapped package. For you, she said. Richard opened it. It was a rock. A smooth gray river rock. On it, she had painted a yellow sun with a smiley face. It's a worry stone, she explained. When you get sad about Mommy or mad at Marcella, you rub the stone. And the sun makes it better. Richard held the rock. It was heavy and cool. He looked at his daughter, who had so little but gave so much. He started to cry. Not sad tears, but happy, overwhelming tears. He pulled her into a hug, rocking her back and forth in front of their crooked popcorn-covered tree. It's the best gift I've ever gotten, he choked out. Better than any watch. Better than any car. Merry Christmas, Daddy, she whispered. Merry Christmas, Lily. It's not about how much money you spend, it's about the time you give. This Christmas, with a lopsided tree and a painted rock, is worth more than all the galas in the world. If you believe love is the best gift, share this story with your family. One night in January, after Lily had gone to sleep, Richard found himself unable to settle. He wandered into the kitchen and saw Lily's backpack on the table. It was slightly open. He saw the edge of a notebook. Not the sketchbook, but an old, battered composition book. He remembered seeing it before. The one she hid under her mattress at the mansion. He hesitated. Was it an invasion of privacy? But his protective instinct won out. He needed to know if there were more demons she wasn't telling him about. He opened the book. The entries were written in crayon. The spelling phonetic and childish. Day 1, she took my bear. She said bears are for babies. I am not a baby. I am 5. Day 12, I am hungry. The bread is moldy, but I ate it. Do not tell Daddy. He is busy working. Day 40. I saw a spider in the basement. We are friends now. His name is Bob. Bob listens to me. Richard turned the pages, his heart breaking with every sentence. It was a chronicle of survival. A testament to her resilience. Then he found the last entry, written the day he came back with the helicopter. Day 100. The sky opened. A big noise came. Daddy jumped out. He looked like a giant. He held me and he smelled like rain. I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. She had written, I am safe 30 times, filling the rest of the page. Richard closed the book. He pressed it to his forehead. He realized then that he hadn't just saved her life. He had saved her faith in humanity. He put the book back exactly where he found it. He walked to her bedroom door and just watched her sleep for an hour. The rise and fall of her chest was the only rhythm that mattered in the universe. He vowed then that he would never miss another entry in the book of her life. He would be there for every chapter, every sentence, every punctuation mark. Reading a child's diary is usually a no-no. But this is powerful.
Seeing her perspective of the rescue changes everything. He looked like a giant. To a child, parents are giants. We have to make sure we use that power for good. If you are a parent, hug your kids tonight. Spring in Vermont was messy. The snow melted into mud. The roads turned to slush. But it was also full of life. Richard and Lily started a garden. Not a manicured garden like the one at the estate, but a wild, messy vegetable patch. We need carrots, Lily decided. For the rabbits. And tomatoes, Richard added. For pizza sauce. They spent weekends knee-deep in mud. Richard, the man who used to fret about a speck of dust on his suit, was now covered in dirt, wearing old jeans and a t-shirt with a hole in it. One afternoon, while digging, Richard's shovel hit something hard. Buried treasure. Lily shouted. Richard dug it up. It was just an old, rusty horseshoe. It's lucky, Richard said, wiping it off. Hang it over the door, and the luck stays in. We don't need luck, Lily said, wiping a smudge of dirt from her nose. We have the truth. The truth? Yeah, she said matter-of-factly. Marcella lead. That was the bad magic. We tell the truth. That's the good magic. Richard looked at her. She was growing up so fast. The fear was receding, replaced by a wisdom beyond her years. You're right, Richard said. Truth is the best magic. They hung the horseshoe over the front door anyway. Just in case. As the weeks went on, the garden grew. Green shoots poked through the black soil. It was a visual representation of their lives, messy, dirty, but growing towards the sun. Truth is the good magic. Children simplify the world in the most beautiful ways. They are building a life based on honesty, which is the strongest foundation. If you love gardening or just love the metaphor of growth, leave in the comments.